Kumladen Ablat Gemara. Today's daf is daf Samach Dalid. Good morning. We are up to the Gemara here. They were sitting, a few Amoraim were sitting together and having a discussion, and now I'm moving on to the next part of the discussion. First part of the discussion was if you hired someone to actually destroy Yain Nesach, does it have a din of Yain Nesach? And now, and we came. In fact, the mother came down emphatically and said, "V'sulei midi, you can't ask any more questions." Clearly, and the problem there was, you want the thing to exist so that you can get paid for destroying it. And we said that since you're doing it to the reason why you want it to exist in order to destroy it, that's perfectly all right. So we're up to the Gemara, right in the middle of the page. First word of the line is V'sulei midi. Says the Gemara. Then Yasi that was sitting or asking the following question: we learned before that by Avodah Zarah, if you sell it, the money that you get in lieu becomes Asa Bahana, the Isar Hana of the Avodah Zarah passes on. That anything that comes from, we learned before the Gemara, Menu, that everything that comes from Avodah Zarah remains Asa like Avodah Zarah. So it says the question is, what about by Goy? If a Goy sells Avodah Zarah, what happens to that money? Does the money become Asa Bahana, just by Yid, or not? Says the Gemara, Nachman said, Nestabra, it makes sense that the May Avodas Kachavim Biyad Oive Kachavim Mutter. It makes sense that the money by a Goy remains Mutter. And what's the logic behind it? Why it makes sense? So the Shem already say, because the pasuk, we need a pasuk to tell you that it becomes asa, and that pasuk is referring to a yid. We have no pasuk for a goy, and therefore, generally speaking, the isa does not get transferred on. Says the Gemara, and I'll prove it to you. The people came before Rabbi Amalu. He said to them that they wanted to become gerim, so he gave them advice, financial advice. He said, do something that as a guy you're allowed to permit it to do, but once you become a yid, you can no longer do it. You're Avodah Zarah. That's probably your most valuable asset. So therefore, he told them, sell it now while you're a guy, and then you become a yid, you can enjoy the money. So it sounds clearly from here that as long as you're a guy and you're selling Avodah Zarah, the money is permitted. That's why he gave him this advice. Sell what you have. And we learned also that there's no lifnei iba by a goy. Taisha said in the beginning of the Masechta. So there's no lifnei iba. So therefore, the goy is allowed to sell Avodah Zarah to others. And then Visui guys, they become a ger. It's like you tell people, become a ger after Pesach. So much easier. My time of why Mishum de Kesava. It's obvious. He holds the may Avodah Chavim biyad v'cham mutar smut. Says Gemara, no. That story proves nothing. You know why? There's another way of looking at it. These Avodah Zarahs are worth a lot of money. But as a goy, he can cancel it. He can take the Avodah Zarah away from it and use it as a yid. But once you become a yid, you can no longer cancel Avodah Zarah. We actually had the Gemara before that why can't the yid be mevatel a goy? One opinion of the Gemara. Why can't the yid be mevatel a goy's Avodah Zarah? We're scared that the yid is going to pick it up, and the moment you picked it up, it became yours, and then it's a Yiddish Avodah Zarah, and you can no longer cancel it. A yid can't cancel Avodah Zarah. I'll bring your eye from here. We're up to the Samadal and Aleph, and we want to ask a general question. We know the money that you sell Avodah Zarah becomes Asa Bahana. What about if a goy sells Avodah Zarah? What's the status of that money? The Nachman came along and said it makes sense that a goy's Avodah Zarah does not transfer, the Isha does not transfer to his money. And now we're trying to bring a proof one way or another. So up to the Gemara here, the first line is L'Giyudah. Right in the middle line. I'll bring you a raya to support Rav Nachman from the following din. It says, a yid was owed, he lent to a guy $100. So the guy owes him money. The guy didn't have money. What did the guy do? He sold Avodah Zarah and brought him the money. Or Yain Nesach, he sold the Yain Nesach, and brought him. It's clear that this money is money from Avodah Zarah. Or Yain Nesach, and Mutter the Yid can take that money. So clear from here a raya to Rav Nachman that said that the money from Avodah Zarah does not become asa. But the Brisa continues, and now the next piece of Gemara is going to try to work out the Brisa. So what does the Brisa clearly say? The guy sold the Avodah Zarah, you can receive that money. But then he says it. I believe Amlev, the guy said to him, look, Hamtainli, wait. Wait, I gotta sell the Avodah. You're telling the Yid, you're informing him, I need to sell the Avodah Zarah and give you the money. Or I'll bring it to you. Or Yayin Nesech, or give me a chance to sell the I'll bring it to you. Also, it's forbidden. So now we finished with Anachman, Zaraf, but now we're trying to understand what's the difference if the guy sold Avodah Zarah and brings you the money. It's all right. But if the guy tells you, I'm going to sell the Avodah Zarah and I'll give you the money, that's not all right. What's the difference? So we're learning Chaim here that sell Avodah Zarah, the money is Asa Bahana, just like the Avodah Zarah. By a guy, we concluded, if a guy sells his Avodah Zarah, it does not become the money that he receives is not Asa Bahana. But we learned a Brisa, and we're trying to understand. Samach Dalad near the bottom. The Brisa said that if the guy pays you back a loan from the money he sold Avodah Zarah, no problem, because it's not Asa Bahana. But if the guy tells the Yid before he sells it, I'm going to sell it, and with that money I'll pay you back, I'll take it. Why should there be a difference? I'll tell you the difference. Sefer, from the Havi, this is a subject we brought on top of the page. The Havi now you want the guy's Avodah Zarah to last at least till he sells it, because if it breaks before he sells it, there's nothing to sell. So then you'll lose out. That's called the Reitz B'Kiyumai. And this is like stretching it further. Reitz B'Kiyumai over here is like really you do nothing. You're not involved. But top of the page, we said by that Kalayim, you built a fence around. Remember Rashi Shitta. You built a fence around the Kalayim. Not like the Aruch who said just thinking about it. But we said what Taisa said, even according to the Aruch, what you do later, the Maisa that you did later goes together with the Machshava you did now. But over here, nothing. You did nothing here. You're just thinking, oh, I hope that he's able, he does a good sale. I hope he sells it. Get my money back. That's enough to be called Reitz B'Kiyumai. What is the origin that you're not allowed to have Reitz B'Kiyumai by Avodah Zarah? We didn't know it's us. So we came to Klayim, the Bekira brought a pasuk. Sad Chaloi. Where does he know? We didn't know where Avodah Zarah. That person's Avodah Zarah's last Havana, maybe, but the Rishonim say, or Rashi in some other places, the reason is because you have a mitzvah to destroy Avodah Zarah, so Reitz B'Kiyumai is the antithesis of that. Not only not destroying it, you want it to be B'Kiyum, so that's the Aveda. So that's what we know Reitz B'Kiyumai is also. So you want the guy to be able to sell it. That's called also. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm not involved. It's sitting by the guy. It's all his. I'm not involved. I'm going to get the tetzah, the consequence of that. And that's called the right to b'kiyumai. And I have a problem with that. Based on the Gemara, we had a kedushin. Remember, we had a whole Gemara kedushin there about if a gay yashins his father. And then we bring from Esav, and we said maybe deal with Esav, the top of the page, Esav Yisrael Mumru. Esav might not be a goy, he might be a Yid, Yisrael Mumru, so that's different. So there it says in Gemara, but now we learned Ger v'oivek echad. You have a Ger and he has a brother, and they're Yash and the father. What's the problem? The problem is only that there's Avodah Zarah there amongst the assets. How do you split that? And are you allowed to say, okay, you take a Avodah Zarah worth $100 and I'll take $100 or something else? Or is that like you're swapping Avodah Zarah for money? Are you allowed to do that? So Ger could say, man, they didn't divide the Yerushia Tulat Avodah Chavim and Imois. I can say that. Tulat the Yain Esech and Ipedis. You take the Yain Esech and I'll take the fruits. But let's say they split it. They split it. And now the guy is going through what he has. He said, you get the upstairs and I'll get the downstairs of the house. And upstairs he finds Avodah Zarah. Can he turn out to his brother and say, you know what? I got some Avodah Zarah. I don't want it. It's worth $500. You give me some stuff, $500. Now he already has bilus over it, right? It's already his. So we say, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, because as soon as he gets bilus, he has to destroy it.
Yeah. And if he gives it to he's getting money in exchange. That's why not. Yeah. So what do we see from here? When he says to the brother, you take the Avodah Zarah, he wants that Avodah Zarah to last 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes until he gives it to his brother so he can get something in lieu. So we see, is mutter. You just said that even just thinking that I want it to last a little bit longer is already usher. He clearly, now that he's making a swap with his brother, he wants it to last longer. Comes along Rava Barul and he says, no, I can find a hechetimtza where there's no Reitz B'Kiyumai. You know how? The Avodah Zarah itself is worth a lot of money. So therefore, because Avodah Zarah itself is worth a lot of money, even if it breaks, what do I care? What's going to happen? It'll break. I don't care. It still gets the same value. Let's say it's a piece of gold. You break it, it's still the same thing. It goes by the ounce. It goes whatever weight it is. Still get the same value. So there's no right to Kiyuma here. He doesn't care if it falls down and breaks. Says he, okay, I understand, but with the Zarah, it's possible that I don't care if it breaks or not. There's no right to Kiyuma. But Yain Nesach, what's Yain Nesach? He might spill it, and then you have nothing. So he's right to Kiyuma. Michael Nemer. So we answer. Becheres Hadrian. If you remember, we learned that when the soldiers went to war, they used to have a certain kind of a material, clay, that they would soak it with wine, and it's so absorbent, they would then break this clay. They would take a piece, the clay shard, these shards, and wherever they went, they just put it in the water, and it would transform the water into wine. So even if the wine gets poured out, we don't care. Okay, spilling, you don't care. But what about stolen? They steal the whole thing. Whether it was Avodah Zarah or Yain Nesach, this is the whole thing. Then right to he prays, I don't want it to be stolen. Or I don't want to lose it. Elo Papa says you're right. Right to is also, but it's only with the Rabban. And when it comes to a guy, we decide to be relaxed. Be lax. You know why? There's an interesting concept. Yerusha the gay comment, shiny Yerusha the gay, that kila be Rabban made Indian. Zayda shema yachzel lekukul. We use that word a lot of times. So for example, if a guy comes again, and says, "Should I sit shiva for my parents?" And the general rule is, that if you feel that it really matters to this person, then shema yachzel lekukul is an important thing. You would say, "Yeah, you sit shiva, no problem." Thank God to somebody else, but sit shiva, do all that kind of stuff. And that gives him comfort.
Don't let him.
Yachzel lekukul.
He'll go back to
his old ways. We're very worried about it. Yes, we don't want to encourage that in any way. Studying about it further, I'll prove to you we have such a concept. Now, let me just tell you that traces over there, the very difficult traces there in Kedushin, traces here, it's a little bit, the Shainim there in Kedushin, not so much here. This whole thing about the brothers, we had a machlekes if yesh breder and breder, which means when two brothers, if two brothers divide a Yerusha, do we say yesh breder? It means all along, what I ended up with Taka's mind, like, ha'achin lekuchasein, or not, or it comes Yevel, we have to redivide it because ein breder, maybe I ended up with yours, and why am I using it? I'm like buying it, and you're using mine, that you're buying. So come Yevel, we have to readjust. How do we view it? So the chayda, isn't this whole thing to do with yesh breder? And if it's yesh breder, that's why the brother can keep it, because there's no right to accumulate here. Because all along it was mine, that which doesn't matter. So others say breder here doesn't work, and the question is why not? There is a very simple reason. If it's yesh breder, then might not come in if we did not split it yet, or if we did split it yet. Even if we split it, yesh breder all along is that if I say after, I realize how much let's swap. It's yesh breder that it was always yours. So might not come in if it was before you were divided or after you divided, makes no difference. But then they try to understand what's going on and why Taka uses breder, or is there a difference? Anyway, time will be learned. And I'll prove it to you. When do we say this din that you're allowed to swap? Only if you yashin. Aval nishtatu. They went into business. A ger with a guy or with a brother, whatever, went into business together. Also, you can no longer swap. Is that it's a unique halacha only Geya Yerusha? Must be because of this when you go into business, what you're doing. Get advice. Okay, now they say Mamaraim was sitting there going through a number of issues. The next one. How do you ask a question? Ger Toshiv, a Ger Toshiv, Ma'awoshi Yivatul Avodah Chavim. A Ger Toshiv, can he cancel Avodah Zarah? A Yid cannot cancel Avodah Zarah, and a Ger Toshiv can. What's the shayla? The Polach Mevatel, maybe somebody who believes in Avodah Zarah, he's the one who has the koyach to dafke, he can go ahead and cancel it. Or but the loy Polach, someone who does not worship Avodah Zarah, then loy Mevatel, can Mevatel it. Ideal called the Bar Minei, anyone who's a guy, Mevatel has the right to Mevatel. The High Bar Minei, and he's similar, he's a guy. It makes sense. The Polach, the Vat, the loy Polach, it makes sense that a Ger Toshiv cannot be Mevatel. Cannot be Mevatel. Said the Gemara, makes a very interesting Gemara. Who is a Ger Toshiv? Yisrael Shemot Avodah Meshuk. Sayyid found Avodah Zarah in the streets. Actually, was the other Coldman. He didn't pick it up, so it's a guy. It's nobody's Avodah Zarah. Hefke, let's say. Tell a guy, do me a favor, cancel Avodah Zarah, and then I'll take it. I can keep it. But once he picks it up, the Eid can no longer mevat. Umevat. But once the Eid picked it up already, so he was cleaning it. You can't. Why? And look at the Raisa says it. Because we say, whether it's his, we had it before, which his friends, a goy can. But then the Braisa adds, Bein oivda ubein she'ein, whether he's a, now we're learning pshat, whether he's a worshipper or whether he's not a worshipper. What do you mean he's not a worshipper? If you're saying it's chaveda, so I'm not the worshipper, we already said that. Must be whether you're a guy who believes in Avodah Zarah and whether you're a Ger Tosha, for example, who doesn't believe in Avodah Zarah. Either way, you can be back. My when you work that what both one is both from a goy, one is where I worship Avodah Zarah. When I don't, no, you already said that you're Avodah Zarah and your friends. Talking about Oivda means a guy who believes in Avodah Zarah. My she'ein Oivda Ger Tosha, a Ger Tosha, because he doesn't believe in Avodah Zarah. And the chiddush is that he can't cancel. Shmamina Ger Tosha nami mevafel. Ger Tosha can't cancel. We'll see in a minute. We'll see in a minute. We'll see it. See in a minute. And this is the Gemara. You'll know what a Ger Tosha is. Why not? I'll tell you. So what do you mean? It means whether I'm a worshipper of that particular Avodah Zarah or whether I worship other Avodah Zarahs. Nevertheless, I can be back. The Reisha is talking about we both worship the same Avodah Zarah. So the Chiddush is, even though it's not mine, it's yours, I can cancel it. Seifa is Zelamakuli. Different Avodah Zarahs. I can still cancel it. But a Ger Tosha maybe cannot cancel Avodah Zarah. Makes it ask a question, and this is what you just said before. What's a Ger Tosha? We have different opinions. Opinion number one. Kol should kibul Allah b'fnei gibul chavedim. He accepted in front of three experts. It's enough that he's mekabel not to do avodah zarah, even though you have to keep Zayim mitzvah and but he was formally mekabel in front of three like a bezin. He won't worship avodah zarah. And Ger Tosha is only necessary. Chachamim Kol. This is what you said. Kol should kibul all of Zayim mitzvahs. Should kibul them in noach. He's mekabel Zayim mitzvah and everyone has to become Zayim, but the way the Rebbe is learning the Pshat and the Rambam that a goy has to mekabel Zayim mitzvah because the Eibush has said so through Moshe, whatever it is. Maybe that's the chiddush of a Ger Tosha. Third opinion is that's not a Ger Tosha. He's a goy. El Ger Tosha is a Ger Oichel Nevelis. She kibbled all of the kind kol mitzvah murz v'toyra chutz me'isa nevelis. He took all the mitzvahs of the Torah except isa nevelis. It can't be that because he didn't mal himself. A Ger Tosha was not gemaled. So how can you say he took all the mitzvahs? Maybe means except that in itself was what Ger is. Ger Tosha, he's not gemaled. So therefore he's not. So that's a given. The Rambam writes in Malachim that a guy wants to do any mitzvah in the Torah he can, and they all try to wonder where did the Rambam get this from. Because we said Goy Shabbos Chayiv Misa, you can't just do mitzvah. So Torah can't learn Torah. So they say it's from right here. That this Ger Tosha is doing all the mitzvahs in the Torah, except one mitzvah he said I can't. In Yavamas we had if a guy become a Ger, I'll do the entire Torah chutz b'diver sefer echad. Just one d'rabbanan. I can't handle this one. He's not a Ger. So there and here he's not doing any of the Raisa. He says so therefore he's not a Ger.
You interpret it just as Sussex.
Sorry?
You interpret it just as Sussex.
Maybe that's what it means.
Anyway, don't you comes out to being a lot.
It's true. In fact, Teresa says over here, we always say that Achedim is a mayor. So what's going on here? A mayor's arguing a mayor. So Teresa brings a rai from here, actually, and a few other places, that when it says Achedim and a mayor, not always Achedim is a mayor. Sometimes a mayor is a mayor. And it's your problem to figure out what he is or what he isn't. Saying Rab Nosson is Yeshayimim. We're learning more Hodis actually soon, the whole story. So Rab Nosson is Yeshayimim, and not always Yeshayimim. Taking about it further, now, big machlek is Yeshayimim, we'll see in the next line. This is how Rashi learns. You can leave wine by him for a short period by the Ger Tosha, but not for a long period. What's the difference? But I feel even in a city, most Eden, you cannot leave it for a long time. But a little bit of wine you can. His oil is like his wine. Remember, there was a time that you're not allowed to eat oil from a goy. The wine is like yain esech. His wine is like oil. What do you mean like oil? It's only us and drinking. The oil, the wine of a get touch is only us and drinking. Now, what's the difference long term and short term? So Rashi says a very important thing here. Rashi says, what do you mean by short term and long term? So Rashi says that you're allowed to leave it in your store, for half an hour and have the get touch washing for it. Why? Because the guy touch doesn't believe in Avodah Zarah. Therefore we don't think he touched it. Right? We don't think he touched it. Sounds from Rashi, but if he would have touched it, it would be Yain Esach.
Even though Muhammad sees it, he said he's not.
Yeah, and that's a chiddush. Rabbeinu Tam in this long places here and all the Rishonim they talk about. What are you talking about? There's no Yain Esach here, and so on. But Rashi holds that a guy, but other Rishonim hold if a guy does not believe in Avodah Zarah, there's no Yain Esach at all. There's no maga, which means that today maybe a guy could pour your wine. A guy might be able to pour your wine. There's no real Avodah Zarah, but not Avodah Zarah because everyone's like a gay Toshiv. If they're like the Rambam, for example, Paskins, that Yishmaelim have the same thing as a gay Toshiv. Does that mean if an Arab touches a Kodesh Tam, which says that there's no maga, there's no touching by a gay Toshiv, and that's why he learns the problem of short term and long term is only Maras Ayin. People see the long term, they forget that you put it in the first place, and they'll think that you're buying wine, goy's wine. Even a gay Toshiv, their wine you can't drink. So about if he touches your wine. So according to the Rambam, you can have Muslim waiters. It passes clearly that Muslims have no. It's like a gay Toshiv, according to many Rishonim, there's no problem of maga. And but according to Rashi, even a gay Toshiv is maga. But then you have a concept of: is there a problem of reitzah b'kiyuma? The reitzah b'kiyuma when the guy is using your wine, touching your wine, whatever, or the guy, especially the guy's wine, you wanted the bottle to last, and even though he's touching it, is there a problem? Anyway, so they have all of these different issues. But bottom line is, as most Hashem say today, the whole thing is a much lower level of Avera because we don't really have Avodah Zarah and all that.
Muslim writers is that a Muslim not sorry, he's forbidden to handle wine.
That's his problem. That's your problem.
No, but it means he's not for Muslim then. Maybe he's an Avodah Zarah.
So that would be nothing. Please nothing. They're not allowed to give wine to somebody else, or they're not allowed to drink it themselves.
They're allowed to handle wine.
No, I thought you're not allowed to imbibe wine. Yeah, I'm saying
I think you trust no.
Could be okay. Let's continue. Rab Shimon says, "Yay no yain esach." They should want yain esach. But I'm not saying mutter b'shli allowed to drink it. Bottom line is, Ger Toshiv, we have three opinions where Ger Toshiv is. Only he doesn't do Avodah Zarah, 7 mitzvahs b'nech, or Kol Kula, except Kashrus and Milah. Rashi, many times in Shas, says Ger Toshiv is just except not to do Avodah Zarah. The Rambam Paskins, it's 7 mitzvahs b'nech. So what's, and how can Rashi Pascal Karmeir all over Shas? He says, a goy, except not to, formally, not to do Avodah Zarah, he's a Ger Toshiv. When the Chachamim say 7 mitzvahs b'nech. So the Gemara will say in a minute. No. The Chadim say that even though he does kol kula, except eating treif. Tell you what further. Telling me, we learned, however, it says here a side thing that in every other respect he's like a goy, except in holding wine by him short term. What do you mean in every other respect? Lav the mevatel he's treated like a guy that he has the power to cancel Avodah Zarah. That was our original question. No, don't do with that. By an Erev, the din is that all the Yidden are automatically included in the Erev because there's chus for them. When if the Goyim are living in your city, you have to buy the rights from them. You go to the council, you buy the rights from everybody, you go to the government, and you buy the rights everybody has. Or Yisrael Mumer, we'll see in a minute, it depends how far he goes in Chil Shabbos. So when it comes to a Ger Toshiv, do you have to buy the Rishus from him? Or is it enough like a Yid, let's say on Shabbos, suddenly a Yid realized he forgot to be part of the Eid if he wasn't around. What he does is he's mevatel the Rishus. You know what, I'm no longer the owner of this Rishus, it belongs to all of you. What about a Ger Toshiv? Does he just mevatel his Rishus? Or a Ger Toshiv actually has to, sell his Rishus, lease his Rishus. Let's think about it. When it says here that he's like a guy, he wasn't talking about canceling Avodah Zarah. If he doesn't believe in Avodah Zarah, maybe he cannot cancel either. No proof one way or another. Litin rishus or levatel rishus. Does he just give up his rishus or he cancels it? Well, we learned Yisrael mumer misham shabbate b'shuk. If a Yisrael mumer in public he makes believe he masquerades as a religious person and he goes ahead and he keeps observing Shabbos. But in home when nobody's looking, he's mechal Shabbos. The din there is, I mean, he knows what Shabbos is, and he has a little shame in public. So we say, you know what? Levatel rishus. We'll treat him like a yid on Shabbos. If he suddenly realizes he didn't participate in Erev, he can walk away and say, my rishus is no longer mine. It's hefker. If publicly, brazenly, he's not worried about Chil Shabbos and he's not embarrassed, so in those days when they understood the value of Shabbos, he just didn't care, then Ein Mevatel Rishus. Then he cannot just submit, say, I'm walking away. We'll treat him like a guy. They should only throw nice and regularly nice and rishus and mevatel rishus, right? You can just give your rishus away as a gift, or just say I don't own it anymore. You have to rent it out, and a mumer the Shabbos is like a mumer l'chol, and he's like a guy. Keitza, what do you do? You say the shusi knuyilach. A guy, what he does is I'm selling you my property for Shabbos, or the shusi mivutelazlach. Kana is kana. The aim tzarich lischais. So you don't have to. Yeah. So when a yid is giving up his rishus, what does the yid do? He gives up his rishus on Shabbos. He realizes he forgot to do it. He says, "My rishus belongs to all of you. Kunuyila belongs to you, and you don't have to give me any money. You don't have to do anything else." Or he says, "The rishusi mivuteluslach. It's all yours." Just the words alone is enough to make it yours, to transfer ownership, and I don't have to make any kinyan. Ain't to make any kinyan. So therefore, there's no raya one way or another whether Tosha can cancel his off. Talking about first, Rabbi Yehuda once said the president Rabbi Drona, but he made him on their holiday. His name of a guy, and he gave him a present holiday. We learned before you're not supposed to give present holiday because they're going to thank the God. I said, "You're dying to be. I know I know this guy doesn't believe in Avodah Zarah, and this is one of the bases why today goyim are not considered Avodah Zarah because we know they don't worship Avodah Zarah. Because you would have asked once a halacha comes into effect, who cares the individual goy if he believes or not? But you see clearly here, even in those days, if you know for a fact that he's not Avodah Zarah, it's all right. We learned we learned clearly that you have to formally accept that you're not going to Avodah Zarah. It's not enough just that we know he doesn't know Avodah Zarah. Ger Toshev has to formally accept it. As the Gemara, that whole brisa with that discussion about who a Ger Toshev is, there's a mitzvah that you have to help them out. You have a mitzvah to support them. Only a Ger Toshev. Who is qualified Ger Toshev for that? And that's how they answer Rashi. Rashi, of course, the Achedim who say you need to accept Shev Mitzvah Noach is talking about when do we have a mitzvah to help that guy out if he's Makabel Shev Mitzvah Noach. But regarding other dinim of Ger Toshev, like, when it comes to the Nevela, who do you give the Nevela first? You sell it to a guy, you give it to Ger Toshev. There, maybe that everyone agrees on like a mayor. That's enough that he doesn't accept Avodah Zarah. That's enough. He renounces the Avodah Zarah. If a Ger Toshev 12 months to get transpired didn't malal, how do you mean? He's like a bad guy, and a Ger Toshev generally doesn't circumcise themselves, right? They only took Avodah Zarah. So how can you say that that you can that he's not Yainetz for that? So we answer Hosam Nigun she kibble all of Lamo. He said he will mala, he didn't complete the job. But over here, all he said was I won't do Avodah Zarah, and he followed through. One more little story similar. Rav Amti the Kubana, he once brought a carbon. It's a beautiful story. We'll do this tomorrow.